Do not fear. I am the angel of peace. Pray with me." With these supernatural words, the story of Fatima began. These words were spoken to 3 shepherd children in Portugal during 1916. The children's names are Lucius dos Santos, age 9, her cousin Francesco Marto, age 8, and his sister Jacinta, who was only 6 years old. During the course of 1916, the angel appeared to these children 3 times. The angel taught them some prayers, gave them Holy Communion, and prepared them for the future visions of Our Lady. The angel told the children to pray and to make daily sacrifices, and, above all, accept and bear with submission the suffering which the Lord would send them. The children were so enraptured by the supernatural that they told no one about these visions. The following year, 1917, from May 13 to October 13, the Virgin Mary appeared 6 times to the children at Fatima. In the course of her appearances, the Virgin Mary told the children that many disasters would embrace the entire world if people didn't stop offending her Son, and if they ignored her message of peace. After showing the children a vision of hell, the Virgin told them many souls will be saved if they turn to her Immaculate Heart and leave sin behind. Therefore, the Virgin Mary came to Fatima and gave the world a peace plan from heaven. This plan is under the complete protection of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, who promises to lead all souls to Jesus. From the very beginning of the visions, most people did not believe the children's story. As proof of the authenticity of the visions, the Virgin Mary performed a miracle with the sun, so that all may believe. The miracle of the sun marked the last appearance of the Virgin, and people who once persecuted the children finally believed in them. The people believed because the sun danced in the sky and came plunging down to earth, but stopped suddenly and resumed its normal position in the sky. Within the course of her visions, Our Lady made several requests. This CD will outline those requests so that many more souls will follow the Fatima way, a way of confidence and love. Living the Fatima message consists in fulfilling Our Lady's requests. The first Fatima request: stop offending Jesus. Do not offend the Lord our God anymore, because he is already so much offended. People must amend their lives and ask forgiveness for their sins. Words of Our Lady, October 13th, 1917. When Our Lady said these words, she was very sad. Look at the world today. There are so many deadly sins that are offending the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Mortal sin is the greatest evil someone can do, for it directly offends God and it affects our neighbor in a negative way. Mortal sin makes a man a slave of the devil. Therefore, Our Lady came to Fatima to lead us back to God and ask that we stop sinning so as to become true children of a much offended God by living an authentic Christian life, a life of sacramental grace. In order to do this, we must amend our lives by turning away from sinful situations and places, and by asking God's forgiveness for all our sins. We do this by sacramental confession, where the soul is cleansed from sins, forgiveness is granted, and a sacramental life flows into the soul, making it very pleasing and special to God. Reconciliation with God brings a peace and happiness that only He can grant. Thus, we can clearly see that if we cease offending God by sin, we shall become peaceful, loving God and our neighbor in spirit and truth. The second Fatima request: pray, especially the Rosary, daily. Pray the Rosary every day in honor of Our Lady of the Rosary, in order to obtain peace for the world and the end of the war, because only she can help you. Words of Our Lady, July 13th, 1917. Prayer unites us to God and establishes a relationship between God and man. This creates a powerful, intimate union that makes man love and serve God. The Holy Rosary is a dynamic and contemplative prayer that invites us in a prayerful way to meditate on the 20 mysteries of our redemption. Because of our close contact with these sacred mysteries, the Rosary creates a powerful, prayerful atmosphere in our daily lives that enables us to live a peaceful life with God and our neighbor. As a result, the Rosary can stop war, restore peace, and change negative situations into positive channels where God's grace abounds. Furthermore, devotion to the Rosary helps us to enter fully into a life of intimate communion with the Mother of God. Mary treasures the mysteries of Jesus' life and death in her Immaculate Heart and communicates the most intimate secrets that only a mother can know. In this way, the Rosary increases our devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and lets us enter into a prayerful communion with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The third Fatima request: offer sacrifices and sufferings to Jesus. Sacrifice yourselves for sinners, and say many times, especially whenever you make some sacrifice, O Jesus, it is for your love, for the conversion of sinners, and in reparation for the sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Words of Our Lady, July 13th, 1917. There are two kinds of sacrifices that God asks of us: voluntary sacrifice, such as moderating our eating habits, restricting our use of entertainment, etc., and fulfilling one's religious and daily duties faithfully. This means observing the commandments of God and the Church, which enable us to fulfill our religious duties. Fulfilling our daily duties perfectly gives us another opportunity to offer acceptable sacrifices to God, such as getting up on time, performing our daily work and chores, like cleaning and studying, as perfectly as possible, and making sure we go about our work as cheerfully as we can for the glory of God. With this in mind, sacrifice becomes a way of life which proves to Jesus we love him, saves souls from damnation, and makes reparation for the sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Are you willing to offer yourselves to God and bear all the sufferings he wills to send you as an act of reparation and in supplication for the conversion of sinners? You are going to have much to suffer, but the grace of God will be your comfort. Words of Our Lady, May 13th, 1917. God wants us to trust in him completely by accepting all sufferings from him as an act of filial love. When daily sufferings are accepted in this way, they bring a deep sense of peace to our souls, since faith teaches us that everything God sends to us is good for our salvation. Furthermore, Our Lady promises us that if we accept sufferings, humiliations, unjust accusations as she did while living in our world, the grace of God will comfort us. When seen in its true light, suffering becomes a source of blessing for us. We also make reparation for the sins committed against God, and we save sinners from eternal damnation. The fourth Fatima request, devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Our Lady showed us, Sister Lucia wrote later, a great sea of fire which seemed to be under the earth. Plunged in this fire were demons and souls in human form, like transparent burning embers, all blackened or burnished bronze, floating about in the conflagration, now raised into the air by the flames that issued from within themselves, together with great clouds of smoke, now falling back on every side like sparks in a huge fire, without weight or equilibrium. And amid shrieks and groans of pain and despair, which horrified us and made us tremble with fear, the demons could be distinguished by their terrifying and repellent likeness to frightful and unknown animals, all black and transparent. We then looked up to Our Lady, who said to us so kindly and so sadly, "You have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved, and there will be peace." Words of Our Lady, July 13th, 1917. Our Lady showed hell to the shepherd children not to frighten them, but to stimulate in them devotion to her Immaculate Heart. This devotion, when lived authentically, will convert sinners who otherwise would be damned, and will create peace in the world. God has given us, in our times, a tremendous sign to follow in order to arrive safely to heaven. That is the Immaculate Heart of Mary. In order to comply with God's wish, we should consecrate ourselves to the Immaculate Heart of Mary daily by devoutly praying the Golden Prayer. This prayer is a beautiful pictorial presentation of what consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary should be: pure, filial, trusting, hopeful, imploring, reparatory, and peaceful. We should always remember there is no sin too great for God's mercy to forgive through the intercession of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. The fifth Fatima request, make the 5 first Saturdays of the month. Look at my heart, surrounded with thorns, with which ungrateful men pierce me at every moment by their blasphemies and ingratitude. You at least try to console me, and announce that I promise to assist at the hour of death with all the graces necessary for salvation, all those souls who, on the first Saturday of 5 consecutive months, shall go to confession, receive Holy Communion, recite 5 decades of the Rosary, and keep me company for 15 minutes while meditating on the 15 mysteries of the Rosary, with the intention of making reparation to me. Words of Our Lady, December 10th, 1925. Our Lady is asking us to live in a spirit of reparation, to atone for the sins committed against her Immaculate Heart, setting aside for this purpose the first Saturday of the month. When we look at the Immaculate Heart of Mary, surrounded with piercing thorns, the sins of mankind, how can we not want to remove them with special acts of love? God wants us so much to make acts of reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary that to those who embrace this way of life, He makes 2 promises: peace in the world and the salvation of souls. We should then become like a raging fire, burning with zeal to make this devotion a moving spiritual force in our lives, and to spread this devotion everywhere in order to reach as many souls as possible. These are the 5 blasphemies that pierce the Immaculate Heart of Mary. 1. Blasphemies against her Immaculate Conception. 2. Blasphemies against her perpetual virginity. 3. Blasphemies against her divine maternity, refusing also to accept her as the mother of all mankind. 4. Blasphemies of those who try publicly to implant in children's hearts indifference, contempt, and even hatred against our Immaculate Mother. And 5. Blasphemies of those who insult her directly in her sacred images. Let us always remember these sins and blasphemies and do everything we can to make reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. The 6th Fatima request: wear the brown scapular of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. In October, our Lord will come, as well as Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Words of Our Lady, September 13, 1917. During the magnificent miracle of the Sun, Our Lady appeared for the last time, holding the child Jesus in her arms, as Our Lady of Mount Carmel. In her right hand, she held out the brown scapular to the world, asking her children to wear it as a sign of consecration to her Immaculate Heart. As we can see, the whole message of Fatima is filled with devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So it was quite natural for Our Lady to give us a sign of her Immaculate Heart. The brown scapular, then, is our personal contract with Our Lady, signifying that we belong to her Immaculate Heart. This makes the brown scapular our shield against the temptations of the devil and of all worldly things. It is the holy garment of Our Lady, who watches and protects all who wear it devoutly. However, the scapular must not be an empty external habit. We must wear the scapular with the intention of reforming our lives by an interior conversion of the heart, giving special attention to the virtue of chastity in our state of life.